But, if we would be going into a meeting about we were going to meeting about a client, I would stay up and I would memorize, a good 12, 13, 15 metrics about that company that I would just have in my head. And then I would just be constantly finding ways to just say that. And the truth is that I only had 12 smart things to say, but I found the right time to say them. They weren't my original thoughts necessarily, but I had numbers memorized. I also have a facility for calculation in my head that I'm lucky to have. And so can spout out the percentages of things on just so quickly. And for people, this is just all proof points that I'm experienced and
It's
good
like
and a leader and should be in
season.
charge.
Yeah. He knows
But
what he's
really,
talking about.
yeah, exactly right. And so I would often leave early. I would make up meetings I didn't have. So maybe I would spend 3 or 4 hours actually in the office, right? Everybody else is there, 8, 10 hours. Everybody else thinks I'm there 8, 10 hours. But I'm not. I'm really like carefully managing myself, managing my time. I've all the time have like a bandana on me and headphones. And so I might be in my office, the door's closed, and what's really going on is my eyes are tied off. I've got headphones on, and I am just in a total state of, like shut off in order to help myself to be able to come out of that in 45 minutes and walk into a conference room and fire
Be the
someone
man.
or
Welcome to Your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in. Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about a aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknierasholisticlifestyle.com to begin.
thanks so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Particularly interested in the whole concept of your show is just so beautiful, and just very glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I'm dying to know about your life story. So, can you start us off with what was it like growing up as a Murphy?
Thanks so much. Well, I grew up just outside of Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, and I grew up a pretty privileged kid in a privileged place. My parents were teachers and really interested in being good parents and doing the best they could by me. And I went to a good area with great schools and the chance for a really good education. But within that context, um, Murphy was really scared. Murphy was a kid who knew deep, deep in my core that I was having a fundamentally different experience than all of the people around me, a fundamentally different experience than my family, than the kids at school, than the people on TV. I knew that to my core, I was filtering everything that was going on around me in a way that it was just clear nobody else was. And that people were quick to understanding things and quick to connect with each other in ways that just didn't feel accessible to me or didn't make any sense to me. And my body wanted to move in different ways than anybody else around me. Body was moving. And I had all sorts of different instincts for how to hold myself or how to move myself that were just odd to everybody around me. So little Murphy's primary job was to keep it a secret, was to make sure that nobody else around him knew just how different he was. And so that was my primary occupation as a kid, was really just pretending to be something that I'm not in order to fit in order to have people think that I wasn't so fundamentally different, in order to not be institutionalized like some people often are, or in order to not be taken out of a traditional school and put into a different kind of school, as often so many people are. And so I pretended and kept pretending and kept pretending. And that, in many ways, is the story that I am most proud to tell. Because, when we pretend to be different than we are, when we pretend that we're something that we're not, we're putting on a mask, right? We're really putting on a mask. And every time we do that, every time we put on that mask, we're also erasing a bit of ourselves. We're making it harder and harder to remember or unearth what it is that's at the bottom of that mask.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was growing older and older, I would have more and more scripts that would be running through my head constantly, all day, every day, telling myself, Murphy, sit still, just sit still. All you have to do is sit still. Don't move your arms, just hold your arms, keep them at your side. Okay, and now eye contact. Let's just give 5 seconds of eye contact. Let's just give up and let's just give 5 seconds. There we go, there we go. Great. Break from eye contact. Now, let's just take a minute, and everything in my head is just running. And as I get older and older, I'm adding more and more scripts in and more filters to what's happening between me and the things around me.
Mm.
And I eventually lost myself. And this is what happens to people. When you look at the neurodivergence community, or you look at the autistic community in particular, you find an incredibly high rate of homelessness. You find a really high rate of alcoholism and drug abuse. And you find a high rate of people choosing to take their lives, a much higher rate than exists in almost any other group we look at. And this is really as a result of people losing themselves, as being forced by society to put so much effort into pretending that you're something you're not, that eventually it gets to the point that you are something you're not, and no longer are what you once were or what you were intended to be. I certainly believe that we're all here for a purpose. I believe that every one of us has gifts and contributions that are enormous, but we need to be our authentic selves in order to give those gifts. We need to be the person that we're meant to be. We need to be feeling true, honest feelings. And we need to be holding our bodies and in the way that is natural to us so that we can be our natural beings and have our natural thoughts. And in order for the best to come of all of us, we need to create space for everybody to be themselves, for everybody to be able to express themselves or manifest themselves in the way that makes the most sense for them. And to me, that's one of the biggest untold stories of neurodivergence, is just simply the constant struggle of pretending to be something that you're not.
Mm. Okay, I think I could hear the fireworks, but just
Yeah,
for
I'm,
the
I'm,
that it's okay. Just for the listeners, it is when we're recording this is actually near the 4th of July, so hence, but I will try my best post production to edit the sound out. So
I'm so sorry. I have
that's
rambunctious
okay.
neighbors.
Woohoo! Murphy, so I mean, whatever you said, just it touches a chord in my heart, and I think it would resonate with anybody listening to this right now. I too, at least in my case, I tied my self worth to an external achievement. Only then
Mm,
I will be loved. And so
mhm.
I'm only begin to learn about neurodivergent in the last couple of years. And I've also had one guest who, a few guests actually, who come up and say, oh, there's actually more and more people are becoming aware about
Yes.
neurodivergent. And even though, you probably have kids that are neurodivergent, but you don't know until you do the research and become self aware of yourself that you can actually be diagnosed as one. So, for example, that particular guest, she got herself diagnosed at 39 to be both autistic and ADHD. And so more and more people are coming up to this. And I am just very grateful for you to be coming onto this show, Murphy. And so I want to take it back to the part where you said it's time to take the mask off. When was that? And what were the pivotal moments? Or was the pivotal
Yeah,
moment?
it was about 10 years ago for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me at 40 years old. And it's not that I didn't know that I was autistic. I
Right.
hadn't been diagnosed in an official way in a hospital. And so that's what I went to do at age 40 is I went to get myself an official diagnosis, which I
Mm,
really wanted because I knew that I had to stop. I knew that I was doing a job that I wasn't able to do. I knew that I was all sorts of things in my life I was doing that I was trying to sustain that ultimately were really hurting me
mm,
and likely shortening my life, and in many cases, just causing great hardship. And so I went for that diagnosis over what's a several week process, but pretty short into the process. The doctor just, she said to me, Murphy, you must know you're autistic. And it was just hearing those words from her that really helped me start to melt away so much of what I was holding in. I pretty quickly went and I got a pin that said autistic right on it, a big gold pin that said
you
autistic right on it. And I started wearing it on my chest. I wore it at work, I wore it at church, I wore it, all around at the grocery store because I just really wanted people to know. Because what I really wanted to start to do was to stop holding myself in so much because I move a lot. I tick a lot. I shake a lot. I have verbal tics that I say that I try so hard to hold in, but then just like come out. And I'm always holding myself in so tight all of the time. And I really wanted to just let go. But letting go meant I was going to start, you know, flapping my arms and I was going to start moving around a lot. And I wanted to, I needed to. And so I just started wearing that autism pin just so for whatever reason, people can just know. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to ask me about it. They can just know. And, as a kid, my goal was to have people not know, right? I desperate for
yeah.
people to not know. And so, I was often okay with people thinking all sorts of things about me as long as they didn't realize how fundamentally different I was. So people thought I was dumb, or people thought I was lazy, or people even thought I was dishonest. Like to me, those were all way better labels that were helping me get away without them thinking the real truth.
Oh,
And so once that real truth came out, and once I just started saying to everyone, this is who I am, it made things feel different for me inside my whole body. It just changed so much about how I relate with who I am. I changed my career as a result. And I went through a journey with my family and my closest friends for whom did know me so well and did love me so well, but maybe didn't know me in all the ways that I can be known. And I'd have to figure out how to introduce myself to them in these ways and how to help them know me without my kids ever thinking for a moment that they never didn't know me. And so it was a journey, and I've had just been lucky. I've got a fabulous wife, and I've got really smart, emotionally intelligent kids who, are just happy to have me as their dad. And so it's really that part of it has been incredible. I was holding corporate job. I worked in education technology for a while, and then I had a big job in higher ed where I was managing large teams and large amounts of money and responsible for revenue. And those jobs were too much for me. I was doing them. I was even successful in many ways, but the toll it was taking on me was just massive. And I was able to really make a pivot and really think about putting myself first, think about letting myself be myself first, And then once I can be in a more natural state, well, then what can I do from here? What can I accomplish from this place? And that feels much better than chasing something that I, am pretending to be able to chase in the first place.
Mm.
And it's just too much.
I love when you touch upon your corporate job. I too left my corporate job just last year and jumping into my own entrepreneurial journey. And so
Yes.
the question I have for you, Murphy, now sometimes I do because it's still very new for me. Infancy stage is just not even it's a few months in, but then I've had this inkling within that told me, okay, Nick, you're not meant to be just in the corporate job. You're meant to start in your own because like you, I felt different too. But I had to attach or rather I bought into the narrative that if I'm different because and it's wrong and I need to follow what the rest is doing, meaning the climbing the corporate. That's what I do best anyway. I got good grades and I perform. And for you, Murphy, so you joined corporate America. What was it like for you, and especially the days leading up to the part where you said it took a toll on you? What did it look like for you?
Yeah. Well, so what it looked like was a lot of stealing myself, a lot of preparation before going into a room.
My
So,
God.
I walk into a room. Oh, first of all, I'd be walking off of a plane. I was living in Chicago and managing a team in a whole nother city. So I would fly there and I would arrive and, I think they would all think I'm just sort of naturally walking in. But, you know, I would spend a good hour of time simply preparing myself, preparing scripts in my head, preparing about, just thinking and calming myself and trying to center myself and then putting a character on, literally saying to myself, okay, here we go. You are going to walk in today and here's what we're going to do today. And I would have this character that I'm playing in my mind, and this character would be in relation with these other people. And I would arrive and I would just play through that character using scripts that I've pre thought of in my head.
Yeah.
And then it would also look like making lots of excuses to leave quickly. Maybe because the room is really bright and I literally am not able to, I can't like think or hear because the sun has just overwhelmed me so much that I can't concentrate in the space. And I don't want people to know that I can't understand what they're saying right now. And so I need a reason to leave the room. Or I have a common thing with autism is a lack of interoception. That's a lack of understanding what your body has to communicate with you, right? Our bodies tell us we're hot. Our bodies tell us we're cold. Our bodies tell us we're sick. Our bodies tell us we have to go to the bathroom. But people on the autism spectrum experience that on a spectrum. Some of them are have hyper interoception and they feel everything intensely, and other people might have hypo interoception like me. I have really poor interoception, which means I don't know when I have to go to the bathroom until I have to go to the bathroom. And so now here I am. This is another thing I'm pretending, right? And so I'm sitting in a room, I'm talking with people, and I'm leading because I'm in charge.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I realize, holy cow! If I don't go to the bathroom right now, I'm gonna pee myself. And so I literally, at that moment, I'm at the ready excuses, at the ready things in order to be able to leave and move and do what I need to be able to appear as normal as I can. It meant a lot of memorization. And so I'm good at memorizing. I'm I used to be even better at it, but I'm still very good at it. It just takes a little more work.
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
But if we would be going into a meeting about we were going to meeting about a client, I would stay up and I would memorize, a good 12, 13, 15 metrics about that company that I would just have in my head. And then I would just be constantly finding ways to just say that. And the truth is that I only had 12 smart things to say, but I found the right time to say them. They weren't my original thoughts necessarily, but I had numbers memorized. I also have a facility for calculation in my head that I'm lucky to have. And so I can spout out the percentages of things
Yeah.
on just so quickly. And for people, this is just all proof points that I'm experienced and good and a leader and should be
Season.
in charge.
Yeah.
Um,
He knows
but
what he's
really,
talking about.
it's, yeah, exactly right. And so I would often leave early. I would make up meetings I didn't have. So maybe I would spend 3 or 4 hours actually in the office, right? Everybody else is there, 8, 10 hours. Everybody else thinks I'm there 8, 10 hours. But I'm not. I'm really like carefully managing myself, managing my time. I've all the time have like a bandana on me and headphones. And so I might be in my office, the door's closed, and what's really going on is my eyes are tied off. I've got headphones on, and I am just in a total state of, like shut off, in order to help myself to be able to come out of that in 45 minutes and walk into a conference room and fire
Be the
someone
man.
or
Fire away some
what
numbers.
exactly whatever it is that was happening that day. Exactly right. Exactly
Right.
right. And nobody else was doing that. I was the only one doing that,
Oh, so you
and I didn't
thought.
need to be.
Who knows? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, uh,
yeah.
you're right. In this case, I'm pretty sure, but you're absolutely right. And everybody else
Right?
has a secret struggle, that's for sure.
Exactly. So, Murphy, in your profile, I read that you also have photophobia,
Yes, yes,
sensory deprivation. Talk to us about that. What is that actually? Like, and how did you, I don't want to say suffer, but how did you navigate with that? What is it? And
yeah.
then
It's
how
funny.
did you navigate with that?
I also don't like the word suffer, but
Right? Yeah.
so photophobia, I've had it my whole life. This is literally just an extreme sensitivity to light. Um,
Mm.
and it's awful. I've found a lot of ways to mitigate it over the years, and I've worked with some neurologists who helped me in some ways. But really, the way I've dealt with it is by creating a lifestyle around it. And so, just to give you your listeners a sense of the problem, too much exposure to light, and I start to shut down, literally. I start stuttering. After I start stuttering for a while, then I start losing the ability to find words. And so I just go nonverbal. I start losing control over my body, and I start like not being able, to the point where I end up just on the floor.
Wow.
And I start to experience pain in my eyes, and the pain in my eyes is so severe that I can't. I just end up with my head on the ground and really unable to lift it up because the pain is so severe. And this is a cycle. This cycle generally ends with me either throwing up or worse, and then slowly starting to come out of that cycle. And this comes to me from exposure to light. So, as a kid, we didn't know what this was. My parents had no idea. We didn't even know that it was light that was causing the problem. And so it was just scary. Lots of emergency room visits and lots of specialists. And it really wasn't until I was a teenager that it became absolutely clear that it was the light that was causing this problem, and then became um, a lifetime of just hiding from the light and limiting my exposure to how much time I can be outdoors. Studied acting, really wanted to be into theater, wanted to be an actor, but ultimately just couldn't manage being on stage the length of a show and exposing myself to light in that way. Some nights it would be okay, but most nights it wouldn't. And so you mentioned sensory deprivation.
Mm-hmm.
And so sensory deprivation is my number one pastime, and something that I really got to as a result, I think, of the light sensitivity. So, flotation therapy, or what other folks call sensory deprivation, takes place in 10 inches of water. 10 inches of water that are heated precisely to skin temperature. And then in that 10 inches of water, we put 1,250 pounds of Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate. So much that the water just becomes totally buoyant, like it's the Dead Sea. That water is exactly heated to skin temperature. So what you can do is lie on top of the water effortlessly with your ears just below the surface of the water. No gravity whatsoever, just releasing all of your muscles, everything all at once. But then we heat the air above the water, also to the exact same temperature as your skin and as the water. So now there's a blended atmosphere where your body, the air, and the water are one constant temperature. And then we remove the light. And so now you're in an environment where you can't see anything, you can't hear anything, you can't smell anything, and because the air, the water, and your body are the same temperature, you can't feel anything. Your brain can't track the existence of the water because the temperatures are all the same. And so you are literally just floating in open in true darkness with no input on the body or mind in any way. And once I discovered this, once I discovered that there's float places all over and you can go and do this, I just really fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea of being alone, of just being in a completely anonymous space where nothing external is coming in. There's nothing to offend me, nothing to hurt me, no stimuli whatsoever, just a place for me to be raw and undisturbed, and I just absolutely love it. And it's a healing practice for me, it's a spiritual practice for me. It's very commonly used by athletes who are seeking to take advantage of the power of the Epsom salt, which just pulls lactic acid right out of our muscles and decreases inflammation substantially. But a lot of people are in there just because it's such a pure space with no weight whatsoever on the body and no weight whatsoever on the mind. So for me, being in a space where I can get rid of the light altogether, or even the idea of fighting light, feels good to me. And then also spiritually, it just became powerful to me, that one can just listen. One can just lie there and listen. I mean, even though you're in a tank, even though you're apart from other people, all of the universe still has the potential to be in there with you. And so just listening and trying to connect. I think it's a powerful practice, and if nothing else, just incredibly relaxing.
Okay, now that reminded me of chosen solitude, right? So you chose this
Yes,
as a practice for you. So
yes.
I want to ask you, what does solitude mean to you and why do you need to cultivate that chosen solitude for yourself and your advice for other people as well?
So yeah, I was just kind of hitting on that. What it feels like to me, solitude is everything. And so I believe that there is God of that in everything, in everyone, in every tree, in every leaf, in every animal, in the clouds. There is just that of God in everything. And that means we're all connected. And that means we're all one, just the way the trees are connected underneath their roots in the soil and they're all one. I also believe that we are all one, that you and I are connected in miraculous ways. And I believe that that connection exists whether we are with each other, whether we are in nature, or whether we are alone. I believe that we are everything. And I don't mean that I am everything. I just mean that everything that is possible, everything that could be, everything that has been, everything that will be, I believe that is already there. It is already out there. It is already what we are made of. And so solitude to me is just an opportunity to be. The imagination is the brain, the imagination is absolutely just bogglingly powerful and expansive, and everything that we know or see or have done is all come from the human imagination. It's all come from our own minds, or at least it's been interpreted by our minds. So solitude to me isn't loneliness. It's just trying to convene. And I was talking about listening earlier because that to me is also solitude, because you're not alone, and knowing you're not alone is why you're listening. I mean, you're just listening for what is out there, for what might speak to you. Uh, and that act of listening to me um, is what makes it so fun, what makes it what makes it so rich, because there's so much to hear and so much to know just in us, as long as who we are is pulling from everything around us. Um, and yeah, that's the best I could say about solitude. Not that I haven't been lonely or don't know loneliness or don't know that loneliness isn't a really hard thing for a lot of people.
Mm.
And I've been privileged to know a lot of love. And so solitude to me is a gift.
I love that. I think now you've certainly, so you said at 40, you went, got yourself you went to the hospital and got yourself that checked out, and true enough, okay, now you sort of like, after having received the, I know, results, everything that you were trying to hold on to, the narratives that weren't yours in the first place, or at least that you tried to put on as a mask so that the world wouldn't know the real you, start melting away. How did that change the trajectory of your career? Number one, and secondly, the way you show up to the world.
For the trajectory of my career, where is still a story that's playing itself out.
We're living it. We're living
At the moment, I have two jobs at the moment, and they're both passion projects that I'm really lucky to be doing, that have both has come to me in the ways of the universe. One of them is I run a really magical circus school in Chicago, the just the place that teaches circus to kids and to professional circus artists, and puts on theater across the country. And it's like a dream job. And so it has far less stress. It's an important job, but it is not. I am not in corporate America. I am working for a nonprofit. I'm working for a place who
Yeah.
values joy and who values people, right? And then the other thing I do is I now own a float spa, just like I was talking about.
So it's yours.
There was yeah, correct. There was a spa here in my, hometown, and I went there all the time and I loved it. And the owner was a little in over their heads and wanted to try something different. And so I just couldn't resist. And my sister and I together have that business. And so that's where my career is at the moment. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot less demanding. Yeah, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I'm not interested in a whole lot more work or responsibility than I've currently taken on.
I can see the radiance off of you, Murphy. You look happier. You sound happier. I mean, just from the story alone, I think you've done a lot of work on yourself. And I think one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves is to understand and really embrace every part of ourselves. Because truly, the universe, I believe there's higher power as well. The universe is just going to keep shoving things, at least onto you, until you actually wake up and say, when are you going to stop pretending and start owning yourself and your power? And so thank you for being that beacon of light in your community. Appreciate it. So okay, there's a question here. If your nervous could speak, what would it
My nervous system could speak. What would it say? Get me out of here.
before and now? I mean, I hope it's not saying get me
Okay.
out of here from this interview.
No, it is not saying that for this interview. Not
Okay.
at all. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay.
No, I just mean my nervous system moves, right? It's on the move. And so I run quickly. What I have found out through unmasking is that I'm not naturally always that way, that there is very much a lightened version of me. that there is a version of me that is plotting and is reflective, is non-responsive, is non-defensive, and is open. And that's a version of me that definitely did not exist, did not even really feel attainable. And so, no doubt, that is another version of my central nervous system speaking to me in a different way, or speaking in a much quieter voice, perhaps.
I love that. I mean, well, as long as I think also one of the key things here is to really listen to what your nervous system is saying and and it's also akin to you tuning into what your body is trying to say to you and also in being intuitive or just tuning
Yes,
into the intuition, right?
yes, yes.
I
That's the
think it's
goal.
yes, and it's like it's screaming. I try to suppress, but almost every time I go against my intuition, I go against my body or what my nervous system is trying to tell me, instantly something bad would happen. Like not, there are varying degrees to what bad is, but still it is not favorable.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
would say I should have just, just stayed
Yes.
on,
Listened.
or yeah, I should have listened. I should have not booked the ticket, for example, things like that. Or I should have
Yep.
just left.
Yes.
I
Yes.
should have gone.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Indeed.
Indeed. So, Murphy, okay. What is one thing you wish more people would understand about being neurodivergent?
So I think one good thing for people to understand about being neurodivergent is that not everyone is a savant. Not everyone who's autistic comes with some, or at least isn't necessarily in tune with or connected to their truest gifts.
Yes.
And then the other thing to know, in my mind, that's really important is we talk about people being on varying levels of autistic in a way that's often uncomfortable for people. And I think a good thing for people to know is autism isn't defined by how other people experience you. Autism is defined by how you experience everything else.
Oh my God, that's so
And so
powerful.
oftentimes we see people that we
Yeah.
don't experience as autistic for a number of ways, number of reasons. But that isn't an indication of how autistic they are. It's an indication of how autistic they appear to you under a sort of understanding of autism that's still being revealed to us. We've had a view of autism that is white. We've had a view of autism that is male, that is young. We've had a view of autism on the media that are all super intelligent. And we haven't seen all of autism in all of its forms for
Yeah.
us to know. And so I think that's also important.
I love that message. So don't assume, just ask if
Don't
you're
assume
curious,
anything.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And always assume confidence.
I love that. Yes.
Always.
So always, always. So Murphy, what is exciting for you at the moment? What are you working on currently?
Oh, well, that's a nice thing to ask. That's great. I'll tell you. I'm working on a solo performance piece that I've been writing for quite some time, that I'm now working with a couple of other theater folks on to help me get it to a draft where I can start to stand it up and see if I can't bring it to life. It's a series of letters that I've written over the course of my life, some that I've sent, many that I haven't, that really speak to the experience I've been having and how it's different than the people around me realize the experience I'm having is. And so I've been having a lot of fun writing and working with friends and trying to see if I can't maybe create something special.
Wow, you've come a long way.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
From the last 10 years. You've come a
Exactly.
long way. Before you said you were afraid to go on stages because of the sensory,
Yeah. Yes.
but right now you're doing this. Okay, I'm rooting
That's
for
right.
you, Murphy.
And I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that part yet, other than this time I'm going to be in charge, and the lighting designer is going to be a friend. And the audience is going to know that the lights are a problem for me, and we'll figure out how to make it work.
If I believe if God planted something within you, He'll make a way. So,
Yep, exactly.
all right. So after that, Murphy, what is next for you? Like in general, what do you see yourself doing or
Well,
being?
just hopefully finding more and more ways to talk to people like you, finding more and more ways to connect outward. I think that there's a lot of young people and a lot of adults who have really significant differences because of their neurology who can really benefit from knowing how much freedom comes from accepting it and from starting to acknowledge it and starting to stop pretending to be something that you're not.
Hugging or embracing every part of yourself so you can
That's right. Exactly right. Yes,
alchemize
indeed.
all
Indeed.
of these into your power, your superpower. These
Oh,
are your
please.
superpowers.
Please.
All right, Murphy. Wow. Okay, we're gonna pivot to a self-worth question because I asked
Okay.
each one of my guests this question. I mean, it's a different question, but I think the question for you, it comes to mind right now. Do you think the definition of self-worth fluctuate, at least for you? And if yes, how did it fluctuate? How did you view self-worth before and how did it evolve to now?
Wow. Yeah, it's evolved. My self-worth has evolved tremendously. I've always had self-worth. I've always had a core of me that knew I had good original thoughts. I knew that I had values, knew that I had like a core of values. And so I've had that sense of self-worth has always been there. I've always known that I have an instinct for good. And I've always known that I see things in an original way. And so that's a big part of self-worth. But our society gives us a lot of other definitions of self-worth that are hard to escape from. And so I didn't have a lot of educational success. And so I felt that, I took away from my own self-worth because of that. And for a long time as a young person, I didn't think I would likely successfully have a career. I didn't think that like getting a job and being successful was something that was in my future, largely because I couldn't figure out how to make school work. And so how would I be able to make anything beyond that work? And so that also just really pulls at your self-worth a lot. And all of that has changed for me. The things that I used to see as deficits, I just don't see as deficits and I'm not as embarrassed by anymore. I don't mind letting you know that I read books. I listen to books. I don't read books because it's too hard for me to comprehend from one beginning of a paragraph to the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that my self-worth isn't tied to that in any way in my mind, but it sure was at one point. And so the definition has fluctuated. What I value, what I view as worthy has fluctuated. And so that's how I think my self-worth has fluctuated. I've hopefully grown up a little bit.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. What is your heart's greatest wish?
Peace. And by peace, I don't just mean like ceasefire. I do mean that, but I just mean like peace in our hearts, peace in us understanding that we're all okay, that everybody is plenty, has plenty, is worth plenty, that all of us are beautiful. That's what I mean by peace, just a moment of peace in our hearts, of self-acceptance. And that moment that happens for all of us, that is what creates that larger ceasefire. My heart's desire is peace for me. It's peace for you. It's peace for my family. It's peace for your family.
If you could create a quote right now, Murphy, to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, leave a quote on command. I don't know if I can
You
leave
can
a
pluck
quote on
from
command.
anybody,
But
can
I will
borrow.
just tell you what my favorite quote is.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite quote ever comes from the movie or the book by Roald Dahl, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And the movie ends with Roald Dahl saying, "Do you remember what happened to the little kid who finally got everything he ever wanted? He lived happily ever after." And to me, that's it. to me the idea that it's okay to dream as big as you want. It's okay to desire whatever you want because you can be happy. You can be happy ever after. It exists. It's just in here.
Wow, this has been awesome. Okay, Murphy, how can people reach out to you and get to know your
Well,
float spa?
yeah, and I love hearing from people. My website's the easiest way. It's at murphymonroe.com, Monroe. And on there, you can read all about me. You can easily connect with me. Anybody who wants to reach out to me is welcome to. I'm happy to connect with people that I've moved. On there, you can also learn about the work I do, speaking to audiences and companies about sensory awareness and neurodiversity. People would like to learn about that, they can do so as well. But more than anything, I'm just happy to connect with folks.
Awesome. Now, any last message before we wrap the interview up?
No last message other than you're doing a really beautiful thing here, and thank you for doing it. Thanks for connecting to so many people because it all helps.
You made my day. Thank you so much, Murphy. Wow. That is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Murphy Monroe. Now, thank you, Murphy, for the work that you're doing for the world and the people around you. Now, for our listeners, this has been Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. And if you've ever felt worthless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Murphy, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Murphy, for your time and for your story.
Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to at holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.denigneras.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check on your energetic alignment, I have done that too. And I offer that kind of services. So, my question to you is, are you ready? Because I am. Let's make your together.
Good evening to you, Murphy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. I'm really glad to be with you and your audience.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today and for agreeing to come on my show. Now, I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners tuning in for the first time, returning, and or new subscribers. Welcome to the show, Murphy. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about owning yourself, basically how to be in your own skin. So I'd like to introduce you to all of our listeners first, Murphy, before we can, and then we can get right into our conversation. Hello, everyone. We have Murphy Monroe here with us. Today's guest is an autistic public speaker, wellness entrepreneur, and executive director of a circus school and theater company in Evanston, Illinois. Murphy also owns a float spa and has spent more time in sensory deprivation than nearly anyone on record. Okay. His lived experience with autism and photophobia fuels his mission. And that is to help organizations and individuals create more inclusive, sensory-friendly spaces. But now, whether consulting on workplace accessibility or speaking about neurodiversity, Murphy brings candor, curiosity, and unique perspective to every conversation. Wow. Welcome to the show, Murphy.